Hi, today we're going to be talking about this topic on how to scale the value of your business. So, we have talked about a lot of different areas of scaling up, but I think this was a very, very important area because ultimately, what we really want to do in a business is not just profits, but to build a very valuable business. And today we're going to be talking about that. So, before we go on, let me just introduce to you again where we're going to be getting our ideas from is from this book Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. As you know, Vern is a very famous business teacher who has helped many businesses across the world to scale. And one of the very important things that we're going to be talking about today comes from the cash section of this book that talks about really building the value of the business. So this is what I do. My name is Jeremy. I work with Vern. So Vern teaches from that book these concepts, and I go to a company and I help them to implement and apply and really build in deep into the company so that they will be able to see results. So far, the companies that I have helped have grown from 40 to 400% over a period of 2 years, because that's when they really see the scaling up effect happen when they build this into the company culture and habits. So today we are going to be talking about this topic about how to scale the value of your business and why is this an important issue. So let me just share with you, about 2 years ago, actually, our company went through this whole exercise where we were actually asking ourselves this question: what is really the value of our business? How do we gain the kind of desired valuation? So in one of our discussion with a bank, and I will not mention which one, they actually showed us some documents that has been used as a benchmark for companies, and that document actually talk about something very interesting. And that company actually distinguishes that document distinguishes between two companies. Right, two companies will be equally profitable, but one company may have been profitable because of luck, being at the right place at the right time, working very hard on the right things for that season, whereas the other company that they talk about are those that have got a very systematic way of building the value of the business. And they actually make a distinction. And what is that distinction? They actually talk about the fact that every business goes through hard times. And those companies that built their business because they were at the right place at the right time and worked very hard in that season, what if that season changes? They do not have a system that will help them to sustain building the value of the company compared to one that has got a very systematic way of building value. So we all know that every business goes through up and downs, up and downs. It's good times and there are bad times. But what this report actually talk about is that the systematic way of doing things gives a investor a higher chance of investing in a good company. So what we're going to be talking about today is really about how do you build the value of your business in a very systematic way. So first of all, let's look at two things that we will talk about. One is actually talking about the P&L, right? Because a lot of companies, they just focus on the P&L, which is this year, and they do all those things that will ensure they hit their profit targets. Now, profit has got a part to play in the value of the company because that's where you put your PE ratios, your multiples to your profits. But actually, we also want to work on the balance sheet, the valuation. So we're going to be looking at some of the things that are not so tangible, but actually has an impact on the value of the business. Because remember, what we're talking about is a system of growing the value of the company, not just one thing, not just the profits, but how do we put everything together? Because remember, the value of the business is not just built in 1 year or on the short term. You are looking at a long term way of systematically adding value over the years so that when the time comes when you need to invest, you need investors, or you want to exit the company is ready. So why do we want to talk about valuing the business? Because it is really because every one of us as business owners at some point of time, you may want to exit the business, right? It could be for various reasons, but what you really want to do is to get the maximum return for all the efforts you have put in over the years. Or the day might come you need investors and you want to get the best valuation so that you get the maximum amount of investment to help you to grow your company. Or the other reason could be one day you may want to list your company. It's almost the same as getting investors, but now you're opening it to the public. But again, it's the same thing. You want to have a strong company, a valuable company when you go out there to the market, right? Because you don't want to shortchange yourself in any of these scenarios, you want to get the maximum value out of the company. And that is why, in order to achieve that, you can't wait till it happens. You can't wait till you want to exit, then you say, okay, what's really the value of my company? Right? It might be too late because there'll be some things that you need to critically build over the years. And in today's video, I want to share with you how we help companies to systematically build the value of the company for the day that any of these three scenarios might happen. Or it may not happen, but you just want to know that your value is increasing over time. So, before we even talk about the what we call the 7 drivers of company value, I want to talk about the 5 reasons for acquisition, because you will see when we put them together later on, a lot of it overlaps. So the reasons for acquisition. So I attended a workshop once on a guy who is really an expert on acquisitions, and he shared with us the 5 key reasons why one company would want to acquire or invest in another company. First reason is, of course, your business, right? They want to buy your business, your model, your products, your services, your expertise. So buying a business could be your revenue and your profits. So buying a business is the number one reason, is the most common reason. But the other 4 reasons I find interesting because people don't really talk about that. But actually, this has a big impact on what we're going to be talking about next, which is the drivers of value. The second reason why people may acquire a company is not because of the company, but they want to acquire the team. There are people in there who have got a proven track record, and when these people work together, it creates magic. Now, we all know that it's not easy to put a team together. It takes years of training and coordination and teamwork before a team can really be effective. And sometimes people acquire a business is because they want that team that has got a proven track record. And the third reason is really to buy expertise. So some people I know, they get investors because of patents, or they have a certain expertise in a particular area that's very hard to find. One of the medical companies that we talk about, the founder has patented several technologies and methodologies on eye care, and that has attracted people to want to invest in his business because only he and his team has this expertise, and they know that they can monetize this expertise. And the fourth reason is really about market access. Maybe somebody want to acquire your business because they want to go into a country or a particular market segment, which if they were to do it on their own takes too much time and money and resources. So it is easier to buy a company that's already strong in there because you get instant results. And the last one is really about buying your customer base. Maybe your customer base has been built up over a number of years, and this customer base is worth a lot of money because of a recurring model. They can keep going back to these customers, and the business is really so established, the customers are not likely to go to somebody else. So the only way to go into this market is to buy the customer base. So these are the 5 reasons why people acquire business. So let's see how it actually matches up with what we want to talk about today. So on your left, you have the 5 reasons for acquisitions, which we've discussed. And on the right now, you have what we call the 7 factors of business value, right? And I'm going to be taking you through them one by one because you will see how every one of them will contribute to one of these 5 reasons why anybody will want to acquire or invest in another business. So what we are doing is actually starting with the end in mind, to really understanding from the investor or the acquirer's point of view, what do they constitute as value that they will be willing to spend money on. And then we are going to be using these 7 factors of business value to grow these areas. Okay, so the first one is predictable profit growth. Second one is to be in a growth industry. The third is a diversified market share. The fourth is a diversified customer concentration. Fifth, very importantly, recurring income systems. Number 6, the company size. And number 7, and this is something that people underestimate a lot, is really the management team. So let's jump in. The first one we're going to be talking about is predictable profit growth. Now, this may sound like common sense, right? Who would want to invest in a business that is not profitable? But the key word here is predictable. How do you know that you are going to be getting this amount of profits? How do you know your profits are going to be growing? What's interesting is that a lot of companies have grown by luck. So I work with one of the fastest growing homegrown giants in the Filipino market for electricity and lights, electrical products, And the owners of the business confided in me that for the last 18 years, they have grown because of luck. Think about that. They are not a small company, they're a huge company. And they admit that they have been growing because of luck. When is your luck going to run out, right? So, are you able to articulate a clear winning strategy? Are you able to map out and execute this strategy and over time see a pattern to your profit growth? So these are three things, right? You are able to articulate a clear strategy, you're able to execute this strategy, and you can show milestones so that when people look at that, they know that you're not just talking empty things from the air. They can actually see how things are falling into place, and that gives predictability to profit growth. The second point is to be in a growth industry. So I work with a lot of companies and I show them these three different scenarios, and some of them they got a shock. So ideally, what we want to be is to be in scenario A, where the industry is growing and the company is also growing. So basically, the whole pie is becoming bigger and you are growing with the industry. So that's ideal. But a lot of businesses find themselves actually in scenario B or C, and they actually do not realize it. They just they just wonder, why are things becoming harder and harder to grow the business? Why is it not like 10 years ago or 20 years ago when things were so smooth? It's because industries mature from scenario A to scenario B, where the industry may stagnate, but you're still expected to grow the business. So if your industry is not growing, then where are you going to find the growth from? Or worse, your industry is declining, it's sunset industry, but yet you need to grow your business. So you're going to be having a huge gap between the industry growth and your company's plans. Where are you going to find that extra growth, right? So you're going to go eat somebody's lunch, and that becomes harder because it's a different competitive strategy altogether. So being in a growth industry also has an impact on your valuation, because people actually want companies to be in a growth industry rather than to be in a declining industry. So what about you? So I work with companies who discover that they are in a stagnating or a declining industry, especially in those industries where they work with children or parents, and that country has got a declining or aging population. And that's where they realize that over time the industry is actually shrinking, right? Because of demographics, but yet they're trying to push. So what is their strategy? The third point is about being in having a diversified market share. So a lot of companies I work with depend on one market, right? So they're good in one market, but like the example I mentioned earlier on, if they're good in one market, say for example, say in Singapore, right? We're working with youths or young people market, parents in Singapore, but Singapore has got an aging population. So what's going to happen to these businesses? They'll find it harder and harder to grow, right? So the more markets that you are in, especially if some of these markets are growth markets, then that will actually give you a good company valuation. Because if you can show that you're in many different markets and the percentage of contribution of the markets are not heavily dependent on one, then you will not be affected if one particular market is down, right? Your company will still continue to grow and all your eggs are not in one basket. And the next one is similar, but now we're talking about customer concentration, right? Some companies that I work with, they all depend like 80% of their revenue based on one customer. It could be the government, it could be one company. Now the question is, what happens if that company is down or you lose that contract? I've seen companies who just go bust because of that one customer that left them, right? So this is all about being held hostage. Because if you are only getting your majority of revenue from one customer, then either you are in a very dangerous situation because anything that happens, it will drag you down, or that company will hold you hostage, which means it will have an effect on your price. And a lot of companies I work with find that they are in that situation where they can't get a better price because they're held hostage by one major customer. So are you in this situation? Because if you are in this situation, then we need to think about how to get out of this, because this would have an effect on your company value. Now, the fifth one is recurring revenue, and I find this very, very, very important, very, very interesting, and that is really because investors or people who acquire business, they put a premium on the predictability of income. So what is so special about recurring income? The first is that because you only need to sell them once and you keep coming back, right? The effort, the productivity of the company, the effectiveness is much, much more enhanced. Right, you don't have to keep selling the same thing one time and then go through the whole cycle to acquire a customer again and again. Recurring income allows you to predict, right? Because you already have a relationship with the customer, and this predictability carries a premium because it allows many other benefits. For example, you can do advanced planning, and when your recurring income comes in at the beginning of the year, it is cash in bank. It is an asset, right? And with cash, you are able to fund growth, right? You can cut down costs on other things like lending, and you just have that reserve for opportunities that come. Just for our own company, before we even went for our digital transformation, we struggle a lot with one-time income. Customers only pay us once, and next year we either have to fight to get a contract again, or we have to get it back again. It was so tough, but digital has helped us to have so much cash in hand that it really allows us to grow. So recurring revenue is a very, very, very important factor, and we help companies to transform their business models to get a recurring source. Number six is company size. And for this one, we're not talking about big companies, but we're talking about healthy companies. So a lot of companies in the past will say, I have thousands of people, and people will be like, wow, that's a huge company that must be doing really well. But times have changed, and with technology, having too many people might be a drag. One of my clients downsized from 3,000 people to 300 people, but they totally changed their business model because the environment in their country just make it so hard, so expensive to carry such a huge labor cost, right? So big doesn't mean good. What you really want is having the right person on the right seat, doing the right things. And I talk about this in my video on how to build a player team, right? It's really about a company that's got the right person on the right seat, doing the right things, because that is when you get to see the unique strength of everybody helping to grow the company. And that's what makes a company healthy, not just having a lot of people maybe all doing the same thing or all doing the same thing the same way. And the last one is really the management team. So this is the X-Men team. This is where the magic happens when you put all these people together, who have worked together for a long time, and whose skills and talents complement each other to give a result that is not possible without that magic, right? So these people, what do they have? They need to have the key skills for the next phase of growth. So recently, I was invited by a huge listed company in Singapore to give a talk about what are the new skills for the 21st century, and I talked to them about a critical area of skills for anybody who wants to do well in this in this 21st century is really digital skills. So it is really no longer enough for us to have just the right skill for the industry. It has to be paired with a digital skill. So that's something for you to think about, because I'm challenging some of my clients to come up with a list of digital skills that their management team should get themselves trained in, even if it's not directly related to their day-to-day work, but they need to be plugged in into the digital world. So these are the most key skills. The second is that, does your management team have the right networks, right? Because it doesn't just depend on one person, the boss, who thinks of everything and get everybody to just execute. Look, your key leaders have the network to solve problems for the company, to get resources, to recommend what's the next big thing. And our company has seen a lot of growth simply because of the networks that our management team have created over the years. And third is, of course, the industry knowledge and experience, right? They bring in with them unique set of experiences that complement and build that team. So the collective is always stronger than an individual. Now the problem comes when one person is smarter than everybody else. Then you only have one functioning brain. Right? How much is that worth compared to everybody having being a good resource of industry knowledge and experience and putting it together so that it works? Now, the last point is actually fit. It's very hard to get people together with that magic, and people actually investors or people who buy a company actually put a premium on that, because if they have that team, then whatever project or whatever business that comes along, that team will be able to solve it. It's almost like having that dream team in a soccer or a basketball team, because it fits and they are able to do that, right? Getting people to fit is harder than training them in skills, because it talks about personality and that many years of working together. So I've shared with you on the 5 reasons why people acquire, and I hope now you can see how these 7 things actually help answer the questions in the minds of the buyer or the investor when they look at your business, or the person who determines the value of your business, right? So now what I want you to do is to ask yourself this question: what do you need to work on? I've got 7 things here identified for you. Put a tick on those that you think currently your company is weak at and you want to work on it, and then set a plan to that, right? If you need help, get in touch with us. We will help you to work out that plan on how to scale your company value. I want you to take this exercise seriously, and that's why I want to give you this free gift. So this is one of the tools we actually use in a coaching situation. So you can't find this anywhere. It's really something that I want to share with you today, because you watched this video and you must be serious about growing the company value. Use this as a checklist to look at where are the areas you really need to work on in order to grow the value of your business. Then identify a person, a leader that you want to working on that, and when. Then if you need our help, come back to us. Let us take a look. We can advise you. We can work with you through that process of scaling the value of your business. So, one more time, this is who I am. I'm Jeremy. This is what I do. I help companies to implement these exercises to build value, build profits, or just to change the habits of a company so you become more effective and your business can scale. I'm a scaling up coach. That's what I do. I work with companies to help them to scale and break through beyond where they are currently at. So thank you very much. If you want that exercise, please get in touch with us at grow@growthcatalyst.com.sg. This is our email address. This is where you can reach us. Write to us, tell us you want that exercise. We also have got other videos that complement this one, that gives you a whole idea of how to scale up your business. So get in touch with us, and thank you very much for listening to this video. I hope you'll be able to scale the value of your company. See you.